Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're going over the best VR games that the Meta Quest has to offer. This includes games with massive budgets, extremely popular games, the most successful titles, and of course, some of my favorite all-time games. There'll be titles from every genre represented, and I'll even mention a few upcoming games that you should keep an eye out for. Now there are of course the links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, today's video is sponsored by Squingle. Officially releasing on November 21st for Meta Quest headsets, this is a truly unique mixed reality 3D puzzle game. Immerse yourself with over 100 beautifully designed levels, ideal for all ages, and anyone looking for a chill fun experience that you could easily jump into 15 to 30 minutes at a time. You can play this title nice and slow if you want to chill out, or race against your own ghost to constantly improve, and maybe even aim for the top score on the global leaderboard. Now if you just can't wait to play this game, or you're not sure you want to commit to the whole title and just need a little taste, well then you could go ahead and pick up Squingle Mini, which is a bite-sized version of the full title featuring 10 levels and coming in for only 99 cents. There's a link in the description if you want to go check out more about this game. So let's just start things off by getting a very specific title out of the way, and that's of course Gorilla Tag. Now this game is definitely not my cup of tea, but we just can't deny how wildly popular it is. Reject humanity, become monkey, and traverse through some VR worlds with some of the most unique and tiring VR mechanics. For whatever reason, these monkeys have no legs, and you'll need to continually push yourself to move in 4 different gameplay modes. This includes a simple game of tag for up to 3 players, an infection mode where the tagged become taggers, a hunt mode where everyone gangs up against one individual, and finally a game of paintball where you use slingshots. Now my personal experience with this game has been tons of screaming kids, a decent amount of profanity or racial slurs, and myself breaking a massive sweat while trying to move around. So like I said, this is definitely not for me, but you can't deny that this is one of the most popular VR games of all time, and if I didn't mention it, plenty of people would yell at me in the comments. Now continuing with some more super popular games, we have Beat Saber. This is VR's undisputed rhythm game title, and after 6 years, it's still insanely popular. Over time, they've added plenty of graphical and mechanical updates, multiplayer modes, and an insane amount of officially licensed music. In total, they've added over 200 songs, featuring a wide array of artists, such as Lady Gaga, Britney Spears, Timberland, Linkin Park, Eminem, and Billie Eilish. So with a spectrum of music that appeals to basically everyone, and gameplay mechanics that are undeniably fun and extremely easy to get into, it's understandable why this game has remained so popular for so long. And the last title that I want to cover in the most popular category is Horizon Worlds. This is Meta's own, free-to-play, all-encompassing social experience. There's a massive array of worlds to experience, games to play, and thousands of people to meet online. Meta also tends to use Horizon Worlds as a promotional device, so you could even jump in and watch things like UFC fights, or get some sort of interactive sneak peek to an upcoming movie. Horizon Worlds has come a long way over the years, so don't sleep on it, at least give it a try. Now before we move into my top picks by genre, I just want to talk about some of the best that mixed reality has to offer. Now mixed reality is still in its infancy, and most of the titles aren't very robust, but the latest releases are showing a lot of promise, and the first one we have to talk about is Spatial Ops. Spatial Ops is basically a 2-in-1 game where both modes function completely different. The first mode is a single-player, story-driven, on-rails shooter, which features a unique mechanic where portals open up in every direction of your room, and you'll have to frequently turn in different directions, fight through enemies in some arcade-style action, and also make sure to dodge any incoming bullets or other harmful obstacles. Now this might not sound like much, but trust me, it's an absolutely fantastic experience, and their PvP co-location arena mode is even cooler. This changes your real-life environment into a battleground filled with an array of weapons and up to 8 players. So if you have that many real-life friends and you could find the space, I highly recommend you try it out. Now if you still want some mixed reality PvP, but you're lacking in real-life friends or overall space, well then I recommend The Last Stand. This is a multi-location PvP title where both you and your opponent are constantly being swarmed by zombies, but the main objective is to take each other out. There's a nice array of different weapons, the combat is surprisingly strategic, and there's plenty of risk versus reward mechanics. This game is also fully playable in single player mode, and it's a steal at only $7.99. Now if you enjoy mixed reality but violence just isn't for you, I recommend you jump into the story-driven experience of Starship Home. After receiving a mysterious package, your real-life environment will be turned into a spaceship, and you'll be thrust into an epic adventure where you need to battle against a blight that is spreading throughout the entire galaxy. Overall, it's a cute experience with simplistic mechanics, but I did enjoy both the storyline and how it makes your environment feel like an actual spaceship. Now, before we get into my top picks per genre, I just want to mention there's a link in the description where you can pick up all of these titles, and starting on November 29th, the majority of my links are going to come with special discounts. I also have a list of all the games I highly recommend and the hardware that I personally use. But let's start things off with the best arena fighting game, and that's Blade & Sorcery Nomad. After over 5 years in early access, this game finally got its 1.0 release, and now goes way beyond just a sandbox fighting title, as there's a full progression system and something similar to a single-player campaign. Now, even if you've been playing this game for years, it's worth jumping back into for that latest update, and if you've never tried it, this is an absolute staple title, featuring some of the best VR physics-based combat, and while it may not be for everyone, it's definitely worth trying. But breaking away from violence and moving into a game that is for everyone, we have Walkabout Mini Golf. This is VR's #1 mini golf simulation, and it seems like the developers are constantly pumping out new content. While the physics are true to life, the courses range from realistic to grandiose, over the top, and outright fantasy or sci-fi themed. Trust me, you haven't really played mini golf unless you've done it on a submarine or on a whole nother planet. Now, for those of you looking for some jump in, jump out, roguelike combat, you have to try Underdogs. Not only is this game dripping with style, as you're controlling gigantic mechs in underground fight clubs in a post-apocalyptic UK, but it also features some badass combat, plenty of risk versus reward mechanics, and an awesome array of different power-ups and weaponry. The title encourages you to make big sweeping punch movements, so every attack feels like you're throwing haymakers or dropping a sledgehammer, and crushing an array of different robots never gets old. Now, I just want to give my other favorite roguelite, Until You Fall, a quick little shout out here. This is another game with an amazing sense of style, and it has a truly unique fighting system that'll have you duck, dodging, and countering enemy attacks, a massive array of unlockable and upgradable weapons, and truly badass special abilities and enemies to fight through. Now, if your preference is to fight other real-life people, then you gotta try out VR's #1 free-to-play battle royale game, Population 1. This is another staple VR title that's been around for quite some time, has released tons of different DLC, and even if you're not really into battle royale games, they introduce Phoenix Royale, which changes things up, plus they have a whole sandbox mode where you can build out your own levels or gameplay modes. So even if shooters aren't your style, I recommend you go check this one out. And speaking of shooters, my favorite one still remains Pavlov Shack. This is undeniably Counter-Strike in VR. It has the same pacing, guns, gameplay modes, and also a huge array of different mods to experience. But I know plenty of people aren't into PvP, so that's why I recommend the co-op RPG Dungeons of Eternity. This is more than just a hack and slash dungeon crawler. It's playable in both single player and up to 3-person co-op modes. There's a massive leveling system, which includes unlockable weapons, cosmetics, and personal buffs. There's multiple different gameplay modes that range from a straightforward dungeon crawl all the way to more complicated modes like defending a specific point. And not only does the physics-based combat feel excellent, but there's also a huge array of enemies to take down, including some massive bosses. But if you want to scale back on the action a little bit, the #1 platformer that everyone should try is Moss. Not only is the mouse-sized world of Moss stunningly beautiful, it also has a heartfelt storyline, excellent puzzles, high-quality combat, and plenty of memorable moments. As a super macho man in his 40s, I never expected to enjoy this game so much. I felt like I couldn't relate to a puzzle platformer with a mouse protagonist, but boy was I wrong, so don't make the same mistake I did. Go ahead and check this out. If you wanted a platformer that's a bit closer to something like Astrobot or Mario, I recommend you check out Max Mustard. It's another really fun parkour experience, and while it's not my #1 choice, it still has plenty to offer. If you're a puzzle fan who wants to crank the graphics up to an 11 on the Meta Quest, well then the easy choice is Red Matter 2. This game features a sci-fi storyline that occasionally gets a little creepy, but overall it's just really cool, massively challenging, and features some of the absolute best graphics that the Meta Quest 3 can offer up. Now, I am not a fan of puzzle titles, yet I still enjoyed every single second of this game. Games that are much more my style are the action-adventure horror titles like Resident Evil 4. This is that classic Resident Evil title that many people already knew and loved, that's been remastered and modified for VR. There's updated graphics and sounds, brand new controls that make this feel like a native title, plus some additional content to replace things that just didn't work right in VR. It doesn't matter if you've played this game 15 times before on numerous different consoles, it's still worth checking out once again in VR. Now, if you wanted a brand new horror-themed shooter experience, you gotta check out Metro Awakening. This is a prequel to the flat-screen Metro titles, featuring an all-new storyline. The overall atmosphere is top-notch and extremely creepy at times. The storyline is deep and surprisingly emotional, and there's plenty of excellent stealth and combat mechanics as you fight through both humans and an array of different mutant creatures. But I understand that this game is probably a bit too scary for a lot of people, or maybe just not their preferred genre. Now, my personal favorite happens to be RPGs, and that's why I have Asgard's Wrath 2 so high up on today's list. This is an epic god-filled journey where you're trying to hunt down Loki with the help of multiple different mortal characters. There's roughly 100 hours of content here, an ever-expanding roguelike mode that you can easily put another 100 hours into, and this game also offers up some of the best combat and graphics I've played on the Meta Quest to date. It's easily one of my all-time favorite VR games, and probably only surpassed by the recent release of Batman Arkham Shadow. If you ever played any of the flat-screen Arkham games, you should know what you're in store for. Camouflage somehow managed to convert that experience into a true VR game. The overall pacing, storytelling, and combat somehow feels extremely similar, and it's an absolute blast to don the cape and embody Batman. This game takes place shortly after Arkham Origins, and they even brought back some of the original voice actors. So if you were a fan of any of those flat screen titles, or you wanted something close to a AAA game in VR, Batman Arkham Shadow is the title to check out. Now that right there is some of my all-time favorites, and before I leave you with a few new games to look out for, I want to hear down in the comments what you think I missed. I know there's plenty of other great games out there that I might have forgot, so go ahead and sound off, letting me know what they are. Now when it comes to upcoming titles, we're getting Skydance's Behemoth, where you take on the role of a cursed individual who has to seek out and defeat some colossal creatures. There's plenty of brutal physics-based combat, and you will have some supernatural powers at your disposal, so if you enjoy games where you feel like a total badass, this one should be a no-brainer. Now if you want more of a storyline and you're into puzzles, Wanderer Fragments of Fate should be a great option for you. This is actually a remaster of a previous version, which is now making its debut on the Meta Quest, and it includes some new content and updated mechanics. Overall, Wanderer is an epic time-traveling journey where you need to revisit unique locations like World War II and the original moon landing because someone's been altering history. Now jumping back to horror-themed shooters, we have Alien Rogue Incursion. You'll take on the role of a colonial marine, but unfortunately for you, you're going to be up against some xenomorphs. Now I'm looking forward to seeing this iconic franchise come to life in VR, but questers will have to wait a little bit longer because the standalone version has been delayed. And that right there was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, consider subscribing. And as always, I'll see you guys on next time.